world will your legacy be? Yeah,
Welcome, everybody, to the Massachusetts Postgame Show. I'm your host, Owen, joined with my co-host, John, here for the semifinal matchup, and then we're going to jump into the finals preview. Semifinals were very entertaining. Both games came down to the wire. We'll talk about the first one, DTMB versus Reapers. Although the score was 73-59 Reapers, this game was close up until the very end. John, you can take this any direction. The Reapers, DTMB, what a good game. Take it where you want.
This was a purely offensive game, but the real key to how they won this game was defense. DPMB was also missing a big player on their team, Cole Sullivan, who, as we saw in the previous games, was a key part to their outside shooting. DTMB, it's well known that they all got players that can take it to the rim, especially like Terrence Gallo, who can jump probably about like 12 feet high if he wanted to. But, we saw just the Reapers take over that loss of Cole Sullivan, that outside shooting. Dante Nolan, number 9 for DTMB, was shooting from the outside, and also Ethan Austin hooked up a couple threes, but mostly they were playing inside, trying to score on the net, inside the box. And the Reapers saw that and were able to shut them down and make some and score off of those losses.
Yeah, definitely. When DTMB they don't hit those threes, then they're forced to go inside, and that makes it a lot easier for the Reapers. They only have to guard the inside if they're not going to be able to make threes. And when you guard the inside and you have a Defensive Player of the Year candidate and Jay Sean Edwards down low, I like your chances pretty well. He ended up with 4 blocks and a steal in that game, and he actually led them in scoring with 23 points. Jay Sean played a great semifinal game after taking a week off, and like you said, when you can't shoot from the outside, it's going to be difficult for them to score. And without Cole Sullivan earlier, like you said there too, I feel like Cole, one of those players early in the season, week 1 through 3, he was kind of just on the team. He was a decent player, but he really elevated his game as the season went on, and he really made DTMB a team to watch out for and a team to be dangerous. And then without him last night, definitely caused some issues for them, and they weren't able to get into that offensive flow that they're so used to. A little bit more on the Reapers now. The Reapers, this game was close up until the fourth quarter, and then the Reapers really started to blow away with it, and had a couple highlights towards the end. Sorry, Ethan, you did get posted pretty hard, I'm not going to lie. But it was definitely a close game all throughout the first 3 quarters. And then what did you see in that fourth quarter that really let the Reapers take over and win this game in a not in a blowout fashion, but the score definitely doesn't reflect how close this game was. But how were they able to inflate the score and come away in this fourth?
I think it was just how they played defense. They were specifically smothering Ethan Austin and anybody who came towards the net, and they were forcing turnovers later in the game. DTMB didn't have too many turnovers in the beginning of the game, but as we know, the Reapers have just so much energy that they can have their starting 5 play an entire game and play as if they're playing in the first quarter. And I think they were able to force over turnovers, score off those, get back on D. DTMB was kind of lacking on getting back on D in the final quarter. And they were able to force Ethan Austin to try to move in and score to get his team back up. But Jay Sean Edwards caught a few blocks then. So I think just the way they played defense was how you should in the fourth quarter, and they were able to capitalize off that.
Yeah, and I just wanted to mention the atmosphere in there for that first game. It was definitely a lot of trash talk, a lot more than we've seen throughout any other game throughout the season, and you could definitely feel the intensity of a semifinal game. And when push came to shove, the Reapers were able to close it out and get a win. And like you said, their defense won them that game. I think it was close throughout, and then DTMB towards the end, they just looked exhausted. And like you said, the Reapers, you put their you said starting 5, starting 4. Welcome to the Legacy Leagues. Put the starting 4 out there, and they just they could run all day, and that's exactly what they did towards the end of that game and really took over and got their 14-point win. And now we are going to jump to the next game, which was the RI Wave versus the Mob. So the RI Wave versus the Mob, this game finished 64-59 with the Mob getting a 5-point win. This game was very entertaining as well. Maybe not quite the atmosphere as the first game, as the crowd was a little bit quieter in this game. Wasn't as much trash talking, but definitely a good game nonetheless. And you could take this in any direction, but the Mob get their 5-point win.
From both sides, it was a great game. I just have to preface that before we start. But I think it really came down to the third quarter. The Mob just went on a huge run. The Mob with Sebastian Delone and Daquan Durham, number 4. They hit some pretty key threes to keep them in the game and eventually take over and take the lead. In the third quarter, the Mob scored 20 points to the R Waves 11. And I think that was also key in them, taking the lead and eventually in the fourth quarter, it came down to them really playing defense. Our Wave had a couple of injuries on the team. I know of, Del Butler. I heard him over saying that he hurt his leg at one point last week, so he wasn't in full condition for this game, and you could see that during the game. But he still played very well. But I'll just leave it at that and give it to you and see what you have to say.
Like you mentioned, a couple injuries for the RI Wave, Del Butler, and then Cody Crawford didn't even suit up. And we mentioned it on last week's podcast. He's one of those guys that you come into the playoffs and he just elevates his game. And to not have him there was definitely a big hole missing for the RI Wave. But like you said, that third quarter was big. As you can see up here, it was 11-20 in favor of the Mob. But I feel like that quarter was probably about 11-11 with about 2-3 minutes left, and then the Mob, they hit a couple threes, got a couple turnovers, had a block or two, and that third quarter was really the final couple minutes of that third quarter was what ultimately decided this game, because now the Mob had a lead going into the fourth, and they just played the clock with a running clock in 10 minutes. They were able to play it well, and although the Wave made it close with some free throws at the end because the Mob couldn't capitalize on their free throws, they had a big enough lead to where it didn't really matter as much, and the Mob were able to get a win. And like you mentioned, the threes between Sebastian and Daquan, those two combined went 7 for 9 from 3, and the rest of the team went 1 for 8. So with your two stars being able to hit these big shots, it's definitely a clutch. And that's the reason they're going to the finals. Is the reason we have a finals matchup. 59-64 is the final score. And I think everybody on the Mob played well. They weren't hitting their threes besides those two, but everybody played a cohesive unit. Those two, they know that they're going to play the whole game, and then the other 4, they know that they're all going to sub and interchange for one another, and they play that well. And when you have a team like this, where it's just a group of friends, unlike like the free agents team or the Wave, where it's a couple players from the Rhode Island League, the Mob, they're all friends. They all understand each other's roles, and they all play it well. And I think that team chemistry is definitely going to help them in the finals, and it definitely helped him here getting the win over a roster of the RI Wave, which is really good, but with the team chemistry of the Mob, they were able to pull it off and get that win. And now, just like that, we have ourselves a finals preview between the Mob and the Reapers. First season here in Massachusetts, and we're down to the last game just like that. So these two teams, they played each other twice in the regular season. They played in week 3 and week 7. Week 7 was a blowout, but that was because there was no Sebastian Delone for the Mob, and the Reapers brought their A game. I'm not going to sit here and deny it. The Reapers are undefeated for a reason, but the week 3 was the closest game they had all season. It went to double overtime first game ever in Legacy League's history to go to double overtime, not just in Massachusetts, but in all the leagues. And that's where the Reapers were able to get their 67-66 win over in week 3. And we're going to just preview the finals by talking about the game that they played in week 3. So week 3, like I just mentioned, double overtime game. And Kevin Views led the Reapers with 27, and Sebastian DeLone led the Mob with 24. Now, I don't know if you can remember this, John, but back in week 3, this game went into overtime. And just walk us through the last couple minutes of that game and what you saw.
Definitely a nail biter. It went into double overtime. It came down. They both scored 3. Going into the first overtime, so we had to force it to the second overtime, coming down to one last shot. I forget who scored that last shot, but it was. I'm pretty sure it was off of a free throw. But I also had to point out that the way they played defense in both their games in the quarterfinals was very, very similar. They were forcing tough shots inside. Forcing them to either take a tough shot outside, or they're going to force them to create a lane and take their chances going for the 2. But I think this finals is going to be great based on how we saw them in week 3.
Absolutely. And a little bit about the week 3. So week 3, Jay Sean Edwards, he only had 12 points. He went 6 for 6, which is great. But as the weeks have gone on, similar to Cole from DTMB, he's just gotten better and better. And I think with him playing at his best right now for the Reapers, I think it's gonna change the dynamic of this game, because he really is either the defensive player of the year or the runner up, because he's that good at defense. And then on the other side, you got Sebastian DeLone, which I could say the same exact thing about him. Those are the 2 best defenders in the league, if you ask me, and either one of them deserves the award. And I think both of them being down low is really going to cause havoc for each offense. So I think it's going to come down to who can be able to shoot the ball a little better, because getting inside is going to be difficult no matter what team you're on. But John, now we put you on the spot. We got to get your prediction, and we got to get a solid reason as to why you have either the Mob or the Reapers winning the finals in the first ever Massachusetts Legacy Leagues.
I'm gonna have to give it to my boys on the Mob. I think they're gonna pull it out. RI Wave is a pretty complete team. Free agents, they've been here, they've played before, and Reapers, they've beaten them before. But RI Wave going into the quarterfinals the semifinals looked very good, and for the Mob to pull that out and win was huge. I think going up against both these teams are very defensive heavy, but they can also score off of mistakes and make their way to the net relatively easily. They got a bunch of big bodies on their teams, so I think Mob's just going to be able to pull it out with defense and really get in the Reapers' heads, and turn it around for the Reapers, because the Reapers love getting in people's heads. They love to talk. So I don't know. I like to see a little upset here.
I like it. The undefeated team goes down. So for all you Reapers fans and all you Reapers players listening, John doesn't like you tomorrow, or not tomorrow, next week. So Mob fans are going to love that. Reapers fans are going to hate that, but that's the beauty of it all. It's the finals. You're going to have to make a choice. If I was Joey, I wouldn't give a prediction, but I'll put myself on the spot as well. I am also going to agree with you here and say the Mob get a win. They avenged their 2 losses to the Reapers. Both games, one was really close, and the other one they didn't have their best player. So I think they come out here and they're hungry. And I think the main reason I'm picking the Mob here is, if you look, last week my pick switches all the time. Last week I said the Reapers. This week I'm saying the Mob, and I think the main reason as to why is because the Mob against the Wave, they looked complete. They looked complete as a team. They weren't arguing with one another. They were working as a unit. They weren't playing 1-on-1. They were playing 4v4, and they were really just sharing the rock. They didn't care who scored. They didn't care who got the block, and they just played very well team basketball. And I think that's the reason. If they can play team basketball again, I see no reason why they don't lift the trophy. Whereas the Reapers, not that they didn't play team basketball, but I think that game was a lot more competitive and it was a lot more like fire, and they were yelling at each other. They weren't lifting each other up, whereas the mob were lifting each other up in a close game. And I think that could be a key difference, especially in a close game, especially with this much on the line. So that's why I'm going to agree with you and say the mob. Reapers fans are going to hate it, but I picked them last week, so they can't hate me as much. And then now for the finals, we both have our picks in, but I want to highlight a player that isn't obvious, like a Sebastian or a Daquan or a Kevin Views or a Jay Sean Edwards. I want to highlight someone else from both rosters. I'll have you pick one from each, and I'll pick one from each that you see making an impact on this game bigger than what they've made throughout the regular season, and just someone who's going to be that third person on the team that can really push them over the edge and get them their first Massachusetts title.
So I'm going to start out with the mob, since they were my pick. And I'm not just going to choose one. I'm going to choose three players that I think will that could make a key difference. Um, I believe that obviously Sebastian Delone, one of the best defenders in the league. He's been averaging over 20 points per game for most of this season. Um, he's also great under the net. I think, the way we've seen him play, he took a week off and then came back like nothing happened. I think he's going to go into this and really make some great plays. I also have to give it to Daquan Durham, number 4. He he's just like Sebastian Delone in a way that he can shoot, he can play defense, he could be a leader on the court for everyone else. And I'm gonna also go with Lopez, number 14. He looked very good in his last game against RI Wave. I think that, and during his game with the Reapers, he also did very well. He had, well, he won 11, had 11 points. Um, but I think those are my 3 players from the mob. And then as for the Reapers, um, it'd be hard not to say Kevin Views. Kevin Views has been unreal this season. Also, high scoring average, um, able to clock in steals and blocks. I think he's such a big part of the Reapers team that for me not to put him on as a key player would be insane. Um,
Yeah.
I think also Josh Monte Castro and Jay Sean Edwards. Josh Monte Castro, he loves to talk. I think he has the most energy on the team. He's running up and down the court like a jackal or something. I don't even know, but he it seems like he never runs out of energy. And then Jay Sean Edwards, we've talked about him so much. He's just become such a great player over the course of this season. Um, Definitely a great big man to have on the team. Not afraid to take it to the net. Those are my 3 players for the Reapers that I think will really be key players for this finals game.
Yeah, the Josh Monte Castro, he's the little engine that could. He runs up and down the court every single night, and he never gets tired. And that you definitely got to show some love to. I would say one of my picks for the Reapers, other than Josh Monte, and then obviously you got the 2 with Kevin Views and Jay Sean. I would say Jose, number 3. He goes out there. He's not much of a talker. He goes in there. He plays good defense, and he might score a bucket or 2. He only scores what comes easy to him, which I can appreciate. And he goes out and he guards either the best guard or even the best player on the opposing team, and he does it well every night. And then when either they get by him or they make a pass or whatever, that's when Jay Sean comes in and gets a block. But he definitely does a great job on the perimeter playing defense. And I think against a mob team where their 2 best players are bigger, if you can lock down everyone else, and I think that would be Jose's job in this game, is to lock down everybody else. I think if he can do that, really force the stars to be stars, it'll be interesting to see the 2 stars in Sebastian and Daquan versus the 2 stars in Kevin Views and Jay Sean, see who can come out on top. And then my pick for the mob, I'm going to have to go with, I'm going to butcher it, but number 3, Marcel Pagan. I think it's Massell. He similar to Jose, he's going to guard your best guard. So in this case, it'll probably be Kevin Views. He guards them up and down the court all 90 feet, and just those are the players I like to look out for. The guys who they're not gonna give you 40, they're not gonna give you 30, but they're gonna play great defense, great perimeter defense, and take the buckets that are easy for them. And I think both those guys have a chance to really impact the game, even if it's not through the box score. But other than that, that's all we have for you. Just a quick post game show here as we preview the finals, and look forward to seeing you guys all next Wednesday night in Norfolk. Be sure to check it out, and we'll see you all there. Have a good one.